Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. We are journeying through Galatians, and today's reading comes from Galatians 4, verse 8, through to the end of the chapter, which is verse 31. Again, another hefty chunk of scripture, but we're just going to dive right in. I think the clearest thing that comes through in this section is Paul's love for the people in Galatia. Galatia? We're going to go with that. And Paul's concern for them. I mean, it is sectioned, the title of the section is Paul's concern for the Galatians. But it really shines through. Verse 19, he says, "My dear children, for whom I am again in the pains of childbirth until Christ is formed in you, how I wish I could be with you now." His love for them really comes through. And he is right to be concerned for them, because he recognises that the false teachers in Galatia at the time, in the church, are he says in verse 17, they're zealous to win you over, but for no good. What they want is to alienate you from us, so that you may have zeal for them. These false teachers, through their kind of the teaching of a works-based salvation, are encouraging the people in the church to still adhere to a lot of the laws and a lot of the principles that they held to before Jesus. And Paul wants them to be set free by that, and he uses a lot of rhetorical questions. The first of which is found in verse 9. So Paul says, "But now that you know God, or rather are known by God, how is it that you are turning back to those weak and miserable forces? Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again?" I think the thing that really, really stuck out to me is the genericness of Paul's statement, because we can really apply it to our own situations. How many of us have laid things at God's feet, have given things over to Him, and then found in the following days, weeks, months, that we've picked them up again through habit, through some kind of reason, and that we're just constantly being slaved to those things. I think this question of Paul is, and it's not as easy as just, well, let things go. Sometimes it is hard, sometimes it is a process. But Paul is encouraging these people to question how, why are you turning back to these things? What is your reason? He's not saying that, he's not being judgmental. He's not like, "I can't believe you would do this." But he's kind of really encouraging them to think through asking these questions. Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again? I have a feeling that most people would say no, they don't want to be enslaved by these things, and God doesn't want that for you either. But Paul is just really encouraging the people to think, and I would echo that encouragement to you guys. If there are things that you keep going back to, if there are things that make you feel captive, things that you keep trying to let go of but they're just not going, you just keep grabbing them back, to encourage you, why is it that I keep holding on to those things? Is there something deeper in my life that I haven't found yet? And if there is, I would encourage you today to spend some time with God, to try and root out those things, to ask yourselves the questions: are there things that I'm still holding on to? And if so, why am I still holding on to them? And my prayer would be that as you do that God would grant you peace, and that God would grant you a real clarity and an insight into understanding yourself. That's my encouragement for you. And then another thing to point out, finally, is the question that he asks in verse 16, "Have I now become your enemy by telling you the truth?" We live in a world that champions individual philosophies, that champions the idea that my truth is the truth, that truth is ultimately non-universal, that there is no kind of objective truth, but fact is opinion, opinion is fact, and everything is kind of the way I want it to be, and so I'm going to take offence if you think or say something different. And I would just encourage you to not be like that, to step away from that, the secular culture of the world, and to soften your heart, because ultimately sometimes we don't want to hear things that are the truth because they will force us to change. But we need to be soft-hearted enough to recognise that we don't know it all, that we haven't got it all together. And we need to be willing to hear the truth, to not demonise those who are sharing it with us, and to be willing to change, to be better, to be willing to go through the suffering in order to be strengthened by God, and to know that He's with us, and to see that transformation. So yeah, those are my encouragements for you today. I pray that God would reveal more to you as you read through the scripture, and I'll see you again tomorrow.